Episode 57 AA November 13, 2024. COP29 attendees discuss replacing wood burning in poor countries. 1A World. COP29 attendees discuss replacing wood burning in poor countries. 2A United States. It is not clear that even MAGA Republicans want to kill the green energy initiatives in the Inflation Reduction Act that have brought new factories and good jobs to more Republican-dominated states than Democratic-dominated states. 3 California, 4 Colorado, 5 Georgia, 6 Nevada, 7 New Jersey, 8 Wisconsin, 9 Canada, 10 United Kingdom, 11 Sweden, 12 Germany and Hungary, 13 India, 14 PM, 2.5 and Human Health. Main content. 1A World. COP29 attendees discuss replacing wood burning in poor countries. World at Baku, Azerbaijan. Climate Summit, in early days, is already on a knife edge. The New York Times. RAWSEP View. COP29 delegates are tangentially discussing the air pollution from indoor residential wood burning, as well as other forms of wood burning by discussing giving funds to developing nations, such as those in Africa, to transition away from residential wood burning primarily for cooking to clean energy from electric cookstoves in community kitchens connected to an electric grid that extends to all rural areas powered by, in the case of Uganda, by clean energy from hydropower and solar power. On the list of developing countries in this article asking for aid are African countries including Uganda and Kenya, Antigua and Barbuda, a nation in the Caribbean, Pakistan and Papua New Guinea, an island country in the southwestern Pacific Ocean. From the article's subheadline, Negotiators agree that trillions are needed to help lower-income countries adapt and cope, but not on who should pay. Listen to this article. 7.39 minutes. People seated at a long desks with microphones. Behind them, several more ranks of people seated on chairs. Delegates at the COP29 Climate Summit in Baku, Azerbaijan, on Wednesday. Reporting from the COP29 Climate Summit in Baku, Azerbaijan. Excerpts edited by RAWSEP for brevity and clarity in relationship to Residents Against Wood Smoke Emission Particulates, a 501c3 nonprofit organization. November 13, 2024. The negotiations are focused on delivering a new plan to provide developing countries with funds to adapt to a warming world. Ali Mohamed, Kenya's climate envoy, said there was widespread agreement that cutting emissions and making countries more resilient to storms, floods, and heat would require trillions of dollars. But just days into the talks, questions were brought up on who should pay, where trillions should come from, and how trillions should be spent. How? Where? By whom? Said Mr. Mohamed, the lead negotiator for the African group of countries. The financing goal is meant to replace an annual target of $100 billion that was set in 2009 and finally met 2 years late, in 2022. For decades, wealthy nations pledged $100 billion annually to support vulnerable countries, said Prime Minister Gaston Browne of Antigua and Barbuda. Yet these promises have largely gone unfulfilled. Developing countries, including Pakistan, several African nations, and a group of small island states, are calling for big countries to raise that commitment to trillions per year. Reaching a valuable compromise requires sharing responsibilities and overcoming divisions between developed nations and emerging and developing economies, Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni of Italy said on Wednesday in an address to delegates and leaders assembled in the main conference hall. In his speech, John Podesta, President Biden's international climate advisor, said the emerging climate finance deal should include new contributors. Complicating the negotiations is the election of Donald J. Trump to be the next president of the United States. Mr. Trump has called climate change a hoax and has said he plans to pull out of the Paris Climate Accord. Things are on a knife edge, said a climate change advisor at the Inter-American Development Bank. It could easily unravel with an ambiguous agreement that provides no basis for more ambitious action. Another source of contention was how much of the money should come from governments, largely in the form of foreign aid, and how much should come from private sector institutions like banks and other companies. A growing chorus of world leaders called for a new series of global taxes on fossil fuels and other polluting industries. Last week, President Emmanuel Macron of France, Prime Minister Mia Mottley of Barbados, and President William Ruto of Kenya proposed levying a fee of 0.1% on stock and bond trades, which they said could raise up to $418 billion per year. They also suggested taxing the shipping industry and oil and gas producers, which they said could raise another $290 billion annually. On Monday, the World Bank and other international development banks announced that they were on track to provide $120 billion per year for low-income and middle-income countries by 2030, up from $74.7 billion last year. The move was praised by the Biden administration, which has been looking for ways to provide more climate finance to poorer countries but has struggled to persuade Congress to spend more. Those funds are expected to provide the foundation for the new finance deal and be used to leverage additional funds from the private sector. In this new framework, it looks like the multilateral development banks will play an enlarged role. Then there was the issue of debt. Many poor countries are saddled with billions of dollars in debt, making it difficult for them to muster the resources to invest in clean energy, prepare their infrastructure for extreme heat and severe weather, and recover from disasters. Leaders from developing nations and the Roman Catholic Church said additional loans would simply perpetuate that cycle. The Vatican Secretary of State called on rich countries to forgive the debts of countries that will never be able to repay them. That was echoed minutes later by Prime Minister Shahbaz Sharif of Pakistan. Climate finance must be grant-based and not add to the debt burden of vulnerable, developing countries, he said. Negotiators are expected to reach a deal and wrap up the conference on November 22nd, though climate COPs tend to go into overtime. One possible scenario, according to several people following the negotiations in Baku, is a final deal that has both a concrete number and a more aspirational figure. The concrete number, which could be $300 billion annually, from the development banks, the International Monetary Fund and other state-sponsored entities to mobilize to support climate efforts in the developing world. The larger figure, $1 trillion a year, would include that funding, as well as hundreds of billions of private sector funds to flow into emerging economies through investments in clean power, infrastructure, and protecting the natural world. The Prime Minister of Papua New Guinea, with the third largest rainforest in the world, said his government was trying to halt deforestation, a major source of emissions, but Papua New Guinea needed funding to do so. Our local communities, our indigenous communities need schools, road access, and hospitals. If Papua New Guineans want to harvest the trees, and we want them to stop harvesting trees, we need a better alternative to offer them. 1B World. Global Air Quality Enhancement Pathways to Health Benefits and Environmental Justice. ScienceDirect.com. Since the World Health Organization classified fine particulate matter PM2.5 as a Group 1 carcinogen in 2013, public concern over the threat of PM1C World, who lowers the levels of pollution that have so far been considered safe. Giorgia. The particulate matter considered to be the most dangerous for humans are those having a diameter of less than 2.5 microns PM2.5, 2A United States. It is not clear that even MAGA Republicans want to kill the green energy initiatives in the Inflation Reduction Act that have brought new factories and good jobs to more Republican-dominated states than Democratic-dominated states. Substack. Letters from an American Heather Cox Richardson. RAWSEP key excerpts from the article below. It is not clear that even MAGA Republicans want to kill the green energy initiatives in the Inflation Reduction Act that have brought new factories and good jobs to more Republican-dominated states than Democratic-dominated states. Today, Chair and Chief Executive Officer of ExxonMobil Darren Woods asked the incoming administration not to change Biden's climate policy dramatically, saying that the lack of consistency on climate change is bad for the economy. I don't think the challenge or the need to address global emissions is going to go away, he said. Anything that happens in the short term would just make the longer term that much more challenging. Exxon has invested heavily in the carbon capture industry. In 2023, Woods predicted that the company's low-carbon business could generate more money than its traditional oil and gas products in as little as a decade, telling investors he expects carbon capture to be a multi-trillion-dollar business. RAWSEP View. On November 13, 2024, Republicans in the Senate elected John Thune, apparently a non-MAGA Republican, as their leader. Excerpts edited by RAWSEP for brevity and clarity in relationship to Residents Against Wood Smoke Emission Particulates, a 501c3 nonprofit organization. November 12, 2024. The backdrop for today's news is that Republicans in the Senate will vote by secret ballot tomorrow for a new Senate Majority Leader. As vote counts continue to come in, it appears that Trump's margin of victory was actually quite slim. Trump has also vowed to eliminate the Biden administration's policies to address climate change, promising to drill, and make the U.S. energy independent by increasing production of fossil fuels. In fact, the production of oil and gas hit an all-time high during the Biden administration, and the U.S. exports those products. But so long as the U.S. is tied to fossil fuels, it will likely always import them because the oil it exports is a different kind than it uses. 2B United States, Washington, D.C. How to get cash for clean energy before tax credits. Rebates possibly disappear. Washington Post. The Trump administration could repeal tax credits for electric vehicles, heat pumps, and more. How to get cash for clean energy before tax credits. Rebates possibly disappear. The Trump administration could repeal tax credits for electric vehicles, heat pumps, and more. 2C United States. Equator Advanced Appliances unveils the ED890HP heat pump dryer, the future of laundry care. EIN Press Wire. This dryer features a ventless design coupled with advanced heat pump technology, enabling energy-efficient drying without compromising the quality of. 2D United States. Home heating safety tips for a worry-free winter. Breaking AC. Avoid burning materials like paper, treated wood, or artificial logs in a traditional wood-burning fireplace, as they can produce toxic fumes. 2E United States. New report shows the cost of rooftop solar is dropping fast. The cool down. Installing solar panels can be a great way to produce clean energy and save money on your bills. This report shows how you can take advantage of. 2F United States. OEMs see growth in single-zone ductless market as homeowners expand, remodel. ACHR News. Some smaller homes can convert to mini-split heat pumps without an issue. But overall, the highest demand for a heat pump mini-split is add-on. 2G United States. PM2.5 and diabetes. Life course associations between ambient fine particulate matter and the prevalence of. American Diabetes Association. Objective. Both air pollution and diabetes are key urban challenges. The association between particulate matter with a diameter of less than 2.5 micrometer PM2.5, 2H United States, PM2.5 and preterm birth. Fine particulate matter, its constituents, and spontaneous preterm birth JAMA network open. Exposures daily total PM2.5 concentrations and monthly data on 5 PM2.5 constituents sulfate, nitrate, ammonium, organic matter, and black carbon Indiana. 2I United States. Pulsed supercritical CO2 heat pump cooling GPU data centers. Natural refrigerants. With no moving parts, the technology uses cascade heat, transfer, and ejector pumps to reject heat through pulse pressure drops. 2J United States. What Trump means for the future of heat pump and EV incentives. Region. Eagle Tribune. If you're thinking of buying an electric car or an energy-saving heat pump eligible for federal tax credits and rebates, now might be the time. 3A California San Diego. Researchers announce major step forward in quest for limitless fusion energy. A bold and the cool down. Fusion energy experts at San Diego's General Atomics created a software, Fuse, to share breakthrough nuclear ideas. 3B California Tuolumne. Pile burning begins east of Donnell Vista. UnionDemocrat.com firefighters began work Tuesday burning piles of wood debris in the Clarks Fork Road Montgomery Meadow area east of Donnell Vista. For Colorado. Prescribed burns planned for pike and other Colorado national forests. Colorado Springs Gazette. Prescribed fire smoke may affect people's health. For more information, visit https://feed. Colorado.gov/would smoke and your health. 5 Georgia Toccoa. Wednesday, November 13, 2024, WNEG. For sale. Wood burning stove insert. Cast iron $100. 6 Nevada Reno. Family's home burned to the ground in Callahan fire. Where do we have Thanksgiving now? Reno Gazette Journal. As wind gusts topped 50 miles per hour, Betty raced from her work as a hospice nurse to get home. Chad prayed the large wooden Siemens chest would survive. 7A New Jersey. NJ Forest Fire Service reports over 507 incidents in October. Madison residents, May T.A. Pinto. Don't discard cigarettes, matches, or smoking materials on the ground. Use indoor wood stoves and fireplaces carefully. Both can emit embers that spark. 7B New Jersey. New Jersey, New York wildfire keeps burning, fed by dry, windy conditions. MSN 9 reasons you should avoid a wood-burning fireplace. AZ Animals US. 8 Wisconsin lane cross. State settles with Gunderson over air pollution violations. News WX.com. The violations centered around a failure to monitor, perform required testing, and failed to document necessary records for the wood-fired boiler. 9 Canada Yukon. Government of Yukon shares forth our Clean Future Climate Change Progress Report. Government of Yukon. A new income-tested heat pump rebate will be available soon. Currently, Yukon homeowners can receive up to 40% of the cost of installing a heat pump. 10A United Kingdom, England. Households with wood burners in England face £300 fines in winter. Daily Express. Smoke control areas for log-burning stoves explained. Households across the UK are being warned they could be fined as much as £300 if they use a log. 10B United Kingdom, Birmingham. UK households using wood burners in November face £300 fine through post. Birmingham Live. In a bid to curb air pollution, Labour Party government regulations now limit the amount of smoke that can be emitted from wood-burning stoves in 10C United Kingdom. Cheaper heat pumps and more electric cars. PM's plans to speed up net zero push. iNews. The government will encourage the public to switch to heat pumps and electric cars in a push to cut Britain's greenhouse gas emissions by more than 10D United Kingdom. Ecotricity explains Dale's position on heat pumps. Ecotricity. Our founder, Dale Vince OB, has been in the news recently about his position on heat pumps, but the headlines can be misleading. 10E United Kingdom. Heat pump rollout could mitigate impacts of higher energy prices. PV Magazine. Researchers simulated the United Kingdom's heat pump rollout through 2050, finding that expansion strategies could help to mitigate high energy. 10F United Kingdom. New report highlights growth in heat pump workforce needed to meet UK net zero targets. The Energist. A new report released today by the Heat Pump Association highlights the sector is on track to train the future heat pump installation workforce. 10G United Kingdom, Yorkshire. Millions of people face £300 fines for using log burners in their homes. Yorkshire Live. If smoke is spotted from these rules mean that only some people with a wood-burning stove or open fire will pay a fine for using it. 11 Sweden. The adoption of renewable energy is transforming women's lives in Kenya's arid and semi-arid lands. Stockholm Environment Institute. By reducing cooking time and fuel collection burdens, energy-efficient wood-burning stoves and biogas have empowered women. 12 Germany and Hungary. BASF receives funding approval for the construction of the world's largest industrial heat. The Diplomat, Bucharest. Here, the heat pump has the potential to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by up to 98%. A smaller proportion of the CO2-free steam is supplied. 13A India, Delhi. Hazardous air quality chokes India's capital. Pollutant levels more than 50 times. Forbes. In some parts of the city, the levels of PM2.5 pollutants, airborne particles less than 2.5 microns in diameter, which can enter the lungs, and 13B India, Delhi. Indian capital air pollution turns severe. Xinhua. Experts say PM2.5 are fine particles that are 2.5 microns or less in diameter and can travel deep into the respiratory tract, reaching the lungs, and 13C India, Delhi. India's capital chokes as air pollution turns severe. BBC. AQI measures the levels of particulate matter, also called PM2.5, in the air. These tiny particles can enter the lungs and cause a host of 14 APM 2.5 and eczema. New study connects air pollution with increased eczema risk. SciTech Daily. Particulate matter, or PM 2.5 in the air. For every increase of 10 m/m3 in average PM 2.5 air pollution in their zip code, people were more than 14 BPM 2.5 and head and neck cancer. Air pollution exposure linked to increased head and neck cancer incidence. Medscape. Exposure to particulate matter measuring less than 2.5 mpm 2.5 is associated with an increased incidence of head and neck cancer (HNC), with 14 cpm 2.5 and ophthalmology. Association between particulate matter pollutants and ophthalmology. 6. OPTH. Dove Medical Press. Temperature did not affect the association between daily visit counts and PM 2.5. Conclusion. This study found that ambient PM increased the rate of